Hey Blue Demons, Courtney here from the Office of Student Involvement. Welcome to week 10 of our Back to Campus Vodcast. It's hard to believe that we're in our last episode of the Back to Campus Vodcast for the 2020-2021 school year. But thank you to everybody who's been tuning in throughout the quarter. It's been great answering questions, getting information out about the return to campus. So as always, going to start off with some announcements before we bring in this week's guests. So as everyone hopefully knows by this point, this fall, DePaul is requiring all students to be vaccinated upon their return. So currently in the city of Chicago, vaccines are open to everyone. Everyone is now eligible. So if you're having trouble figuring out how to get your vaccine, you can go to a website that DePaul has established, go.depaul.edu/COVID vaccine. There it has some tips and recommendations if you haven't yet started that process. But we recommend getting that started sooner rather than later so that you have that time frame before classes start this fall. Then we have some updates around current regulations around gatherings. So the city of Chicago continues to be in the bridge phase. So you'll start to see more and more things starting to open around the city of Chicago. So here at DePaul, we are still in that transitory period as well. So we've got a couple regulations in place, but we're also, I'm excited to announce one thing that's opening up a little bit today, but we'll get to that here in a second. But we're still requiring all on and off campus student organizations to be registered through the Phase 4 event form. Student organizations can do that through DHub just by going to your events listing and creating an event. That'll prompt the form to get started. But you only have to do that for events through June 14th. So if you have an event June 14th or before, you have to fill out that form. If the event is June 15th or after, the form is not going to be used. Now, that might change as rules and regulations shift for the city, but for the time being, we are excited for that form to sunset for a little bit. Gatherings are also still limited to 50% of room capacity and no more than 50 people indoors. We do have a little bit more flexibility outside, so if you're looking to plan on-campus events, just get in touch with the student centers so that they can help you navigate that. Then, as always, here's some of those capacities for the different rooms and spaces on campus. I'd recommend taking a screenshot of this if you are still planning any on-campus events. Then one of the things that we are most excited to share is the new an updated student organization travel policy. And I apologize, this is a little bit smaller probably than you might be able to see, but let me make it bigger here. But this is a new and updated policy this week for student organization travel. So you can read the full thing at go.depaul.edu/campuslife. But the main components are that travel restrictions are now being lifted. So student organizations can travel, but they are required to complete the student organization pre-travel itinerary form. You can see the DHub link right there. You have to submit that form at least 7 days prior to the point of travel, and then you will get approval once you get that submitted. So if you have summer conferences, conventions, anything like that, we're excited to say that that restriction has been lifted and you are eligible to travel. We are still reminding folks and reminding students that they should follow the City of Chicago emergency travel order. But if you follow the news, you'll see that this week all states have been lifted from that travel order. So obviously that might change in the weeks and months to come, but for the time being, that's pretty good news. So moving from there, I'm excited to bring in this week's guest. You may recognize him. It's Jeff Quest. Jeff, welcome back to the Back to Campus Vodcast.
Hello, thanks for having me for the big finale. This is very exciting.
Yeah, you were here for our first one and you're here for our last one.
Yes.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be familiar with Jeff, he is the Associate Director of the Student Center. So if you have events that have been in the Student Center in Monroe, on the Quad and Quarterloo, a number of different spaces in the Loop downtown at the DePaul Center, you've probably either worked with Jeff or someone from his team. So I part of the reason I asked Jeff to come back this time is we know that on-campus gatherings have, are wrapping up for this calendar year, but students are starting to focus on the fall. So Jeff, I'm going to ask you one of the questions that a lot of students are asking me right now, but what do we know about on-campus events for this fall?
Well, I think we are planning for on-campus events for the fall, but again, we're still, getting that guidance from the city and the state. And so we're kind of functioning as we have currently, with the idea that we're going to look to, fingers crossed, see more normal events happening with different capacities and different levels of ability to hold those events in the student center spaces.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important for student organizations to know, like, our hope is that we can go back to as, normal as things were in February 2020 and before, right? If we can't, though, I think student center staff and my staff and the Office of Student Involvement are going to do things like this. We might bring back the Back to Campus Vodcast to make sure that you have the most up-to-date rules and regulations on a weekly basis. So we'll send out messages through the student organization community portal. We'll post them to social media. We'll put them in newsletters and Newsline, all of those different places. So the hope is to get to that place where we can have things be as traditional as an experience as possible. But knowing that rules and regulations are shifting, we might have to move some things around. But Jeff, knowing that that's our aim, are student organizations currently able to make reservations for fall quarter or potentially beyond?
Yeah. So what I would say is, right, normally in a normal year, we would be using our EMS software, which is the event management software we use for folks to make reservations for our spaces. We've kind of taken that offline this year just because there have been so many quirks to what is and isn't possible in our spaces, and we've been working more directly with folks to plan those events. However, we are looking to, at the end of this quarter, so on that Monday after June 14th, to kick EMS back on and really let folks put those reservations in for fall. What we will likely do is kind of have the system set up so that you're making reservations as if all other things were normal. And as we get closer to those events, if capacities or other issues are at play, we'll be reaching out to clients to talk about what that looks like. So that's kind of the current plan for what we're thinking about for fall and beyond that.
That's great. Well, and I know a lot of student organizations are looking for their meetings, their fall traditions, all of those different things. So students, if you can hold on a little bit, again, that EMS date will open right after June 14th. So you'll have full access to the system. If you aren't sure how EMS works, Student Centers has made a number of tutorials, and you can also access the site for EMS via the Student Centers website, which is studentcenters.depaul.edu. Jeff, I don't know if you have any tips or tricks for students who might be using EMS for the first time.
Yeah, so what you really want to do is I take a look at those tutorials, and the first step is really making sure that you have a username and access to the system, and so it'll talk you through how to make that request for your organization. I know a lot of folks probably will be brand new to the system just based on changing leadership of a lot of the student orgs. So, I take a look at that. And as always, I'd say email studentcenters@depaul.edu if you run into any problems. We check that regularly. We can reach out to you directly and talk through and try and troubleshoot any issues you have. Or if you have specific questions about spaces, given we haven't used these spaces as they normally are in quite a while. So if you just have questions about, well, should I reserve this space or that space? All of those should be routed to studentcenters@depaul.edu, and somebody from our team will be reaching out.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff. So before obviously we get to fall, we also have to have summer. And I know Student Centers typically has different hours throughout the summer, but can you just give our viewers a little bit of an overview of Student Center summer hours and what some of the reasons are they might be coming to the Student Center this summer?
Sure. So we are going to be open after graduation. After that last Friday, actually, we'll be closed on Saturday and Sunday before our summer hours start up, which for this summer, we're looking to be open 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For students that need to access certain things like, say, the food pantry, or, I believe ID services will be open, some of those office spaces, or just, print something out in brownstones. That's the time that will be open, going through the June and through the end of July. So that's the current plan for that. And then having some more regular hours starting in August. For all of those hours, we're still looking to have that, Campus Clear app and masking and all of those types of things you're used to for this past quarter. If you've been in the Student Center, that's all going to kind of continue on through at least these kind of reduced summer hours that we're having.
Perfect. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all that you and your team have done for all of our on-campus events throughout this spring quarter. I know we had a small glimpse of them here, but I know I, for one, am excited to get back to a more robust on-campus experience in the fall.
Oh, for sure. I know I'm really excited to see the student orgs back in the student center. That's where they should be. So,
yeah. All righty. Well, we will talk to you later.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so just a couple other announcements as we wrap up our this week's episode of the Back to Campus Vodcast. So we do have one more on-campus event taking place this Friday, June 4th, from noon to 4 p.m. It'll be out on the quad. Our DePaul Activities Board is hosting a field day, so they'll have lots of different games, giveaways, all sorts of stuff there happening out on the quad. So be sure to check that out. Then, Jeff mentioned this, but I think it bears repeating. We are still encouraging a number of things and requiring one while you're here, or requiring two. So masks continue to be required on campus. So when you're here, make sure you grab one. If you forget one because you're on a walk or something else, we still have some dispensers available, so you can grab a single-use one if needed. We're also still encouraging social distancing. So when you're here, just make sure that you're minding the space around you and still aiming for that 6 feet in between folks. And then when you do come into campus facilities, you will be required to do the Campus Clear app. So it's very easy to download. You just log in with your Campus Connect credentials, and you can go from there. But like I mentioned this website earlier, we're continuing to update the Campus Life website at go.depaul.edu/campuslife, which with updates about what's going on with current rules and regulations. We're committing to keeping this site up to date through the year, and as rules and regulations continue to change. So if there's anything that you need, you can always check that site, or you can reach out to us at involvement@depaul.edu. But as I mentioned at the front end of the vodcast, thank you all so much for sticking through with the vodcasts for the entirety of spring quarter. It's been great answering questions that I've been getting an email in between these, and just helping to spread that message. So we look forward to seeing you all on campus back this fall. And as always, stay safe, Blue Demons, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.